Hi everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. We're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. We're at the HIMSS 2022 conference and we're excited to be with Anders Brown, Managing Director of Tegria. Welcome, Anders.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself and Tegria.
Yeah, so I'm Anders Brown, as you said, Managing Director of Tegria. I started my career at Microsoft for a number of years, and in the last probably 10 or 15 years or so, been more in professional services, building and scaling technology companies. I've been with Tegria, I like to say before it was Tegria actually, when it was an initiative that we were getting organized with Providence Health.
Right.
And certainly I'm excited to have been involved in the whole part of this growth. Certainly today Tegria, as we've grown, is over 3,000 people.
Wow.
We have a lot of different services, a lot of different customers. We're doing a lot of interesting things in healthcare, and certainly excited to be here at HIMSS. In the nice weather too. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so I can always use a little bit of sun, but yeah, happy to be here.
I was going to say, you're responsible for the rain here, but...
Yeah, for sure.
No, but Tegria is such an interesting organization because you have this amalgamation of just a bunch of interesting companies. So what's the bigger vision behind all these acquisitions and how do they kind of fit together?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, I think our vision for Tegria is to really make an impact in healthcare at scale, and we think to do that you need to have size and a wide breadth of offerings. All of our customers come to us normally for one thing. Maybe they're looking to optimize their EHR, maybe they're looking for some data analytics, or looking for something, but inevitably it moves beyond that. And so to have a wide range of service offerings we think is really, really important. And so ultimately the vision for Tegria is to grow our offerings, grow what we do for customers, obviously continue to add value to those customers, and to keep meeting them where they are in terms of what they're trying to accomplish in their kind of daily existence.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we've seen is initially it was all best of breed, then they're like, wait, no, then I have to work with 10 companies. So
Exactly.
Is it along those same lines that they're like, we want you to provide a bunch so that we can just work with one company, one relationship?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, no procurement team or CIO or CEO wakes up and says, I want to have a wide range of vendors I have to deal with. And so we think, particularly because we're focused on the services aspect, meaning we'll come in and say, hey, what can we help you with today? People's needs and healthcare systems needs are different. Everybody's at a different point in this trajectory of transforming to meet the needs of today. And so we think the ability to meet them where they are and to have an offering that makes sense today but can grow with them in the future is really, really important.
So let's talk about that. I mean, we're seeing kind of a evolution, if you will, of consulting companies. Obviously Meaningful Use Days, it was all staff augmentation, called consulting, but kind of post-EHR adoption. Where do you see all this headed? I mean, I see some people going to service decks, some people launching products. How do you see this all going?
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly in a new wave of growth that comes out of, I'd say, all this investment in the EHR platform. And really, from a Tegria perspective, that is very much the center of where we start. And there's a number of things happening in that space. One is you have people who are still at the tail end of just trying to find their way to exactly the EHR system they might want. And so certainly we can help people move to that platform. More importantly though, and I think what we're going to see more of, is people saying, how do I get more out of this investment I've made? So I spent a lot of money, I have this electronic record, I have the infrastructure. How do I now extend that into things like the patient experience, billing and scheduling, analytics for workflow and what's happening inside of my healthcare system? And how do we get more out of this investment that we've made and actually build upon that? Again, different perspectives in different healthcare systems will lead us down a different path for what we can do to meet them where they are and where they want to spend time and money on. But certainly it stems from, I think, getting more out of this infrastructure they've put in place for the last decade. Yeah,
I mean, I have a theory I've been working on that, we love to talk about the latest AI and the latest software technology, but still, and I'll just put a number out there, 70-80% of the mind share of most health IT professionals is the EHR, which I think we sometimes lose, we forget, we implemented that, we should be done, but it's like, no, it still takes up so much of the mind share.
And some of what we see from customers is that it's such a powerful infrastructure that's been deployed, but in some way, it also is the reason there's so many challenges. We've taken clinicians and doctors and nurses and made them have to be technologists, which is why a lot of what we work on is things like improving the clinical workflow so they don't have to be tech-centric or tech-savvy all the time. They can actually take care of their patients. And so it goes both ways. It's such a powerful infrastructure and one that's so needed for us to advance this industry, but at the same time, it's one that we hear a lot of tension and angst around quite often.
It's such a mixed feeling. So you listed off some projects, but what projects do you think are kind of top of mind for your customers and will really drive your business for this next 5 or so years?
Yeah, I think there's probably 3 or 4 that come to mind for me. One is, I think there's a lot of innovation happening in this patient experience generally. How do you build a more modern experience, one that other industries have gotten to and tackled, and bring that to healthcare? We did a Harris poll actually recently that said something like 7 out of 10 consumers were willing to change their healthcare provider if they had a better experience. So think about that in an industry context. You could literally lose 7 out of 10 of your customers if somebody else just did something different.
Huge.
And so we think there's a lot of work there, and also a lot of innovation, whether it's voice interactions, whether it's using these mobile phones and devices we all now have, whether it's the automation of the workflows behind there. We think there's a bunch of work there in the patient experience. We also think there's the flip side of that is the clinical experience. So how do we improve clinical workflows? How do we, as I said earlier, make these EHR experiences better so that doctors can be doctors and clinicians can be clinicians, and not have to be so much technologists. I think the other area is all around the workflow on the back end around revenue cycle management and financial services. So how do we actually improve and accelerate that so people can improve that top line, which gives them obviously some more capital to invest in the other pieces of their work. And then probably the fourth, I think, big area, and it's undeniable, you see a lot of it here at HIMSS, is this migration to the cloud. And how do we help people move down this curve of thinking about, do you want to own and control your own infrastructure? Do you want to use the public cloud and change some of that CapEx into OpEx? That's a transition, that's a change. It's certainly a process, but we see that as almost an undeniable trend over the next decade that we'll be tackling.
Yeah, and it's interesting, that one's a tech trend and a financial positioning as well.
Yeah, and a lot of it's change management too. You're actually asking these health systems to rethink the people that they employ, the people that they have, the skill sets that they require, what do they keep in-house, what do they outsource, but these are trends that are coming, I think, one way or the other, to the industry.
Yeah, well, your comments about patient experience are interesting. A lot of people call it digital transformation, it's kind of the buzzword that people are doing, but where do you see provider organizations really embracing that, and where do you see them still kind of being, I don't know if we're ready for that transformation?
Yeah. Well, first, we can definitely agree that it is one of the biggest buzzwords in the industry, this digital transformation work.
And it's needed, let's be honest. We need to transform
a lot of
things.
And it is needed. I mean, we very much think, particularly coming out of the pandemic, we're at a huge inflection point here where we have to decide, are we going to continue to embrace these new tools that in some way were kind of unfortunately forced upon us, specifically things like virtual care and telehealth, or are we going to kind of roll back to the ways of before? I think one of the most interesting things about this transformation kind of discussion is it means something different to everybody. If we talk to 100 customers, it'll all mean something different. And so part of, I think, our strategy at Tegria is one, to recognize that and to be okay to meet them where they are. Maybe transformation means move some data from where they're at on premise just into the cloud. Very simple, straightforward, it's a big deal. Maybe for others it's a complete rethinking of massive workflows and moving bigger systems to the cloud, let's say. And so I think one of them is just to be able to meet people where they are, and my feedback to customers is that's okay. You don't have to bite off the biggest and most advanced project if you're just not ready for it, because it's a financial decision, but it's also a culture and change management decision. So we get a lot of that, I think, out there in the industry and in our customer base. And then I think the other is how to then make demonstrable progress. How do you actually pick the areas? And again, that depends on the priorities. It could be a little bit in this patient access. It could be simpler things on the payment side, let's say on the back end. But I think, and our message to customers is starting matters. Moving forward matters. Taking that first step matters, and learning ultimately about how to make this transition matters. And again, we're happy to, as I said before, meet them where they are and kind of help them all along the way. But it's coming, and it's a big, I think, part of what we're spending our time on.
That's awesome. Well, Anders, thanks so much for taking time and sharing sharing kind of insights into Tegria, but also, you know, a background on the industry. And thanks everyone for watching. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcasting application. Thanks, Anders.
Thank you.